Mount Kinabalu is the highest mountain in Southeast Asia. It stands more than 13,000 feet. It's also the mountain which fascinated and almost killed two British Army soldiers who led an ill-fated expedition there in 1994. In ancient times, locals believed that when you died, your spirit went to the mountain and that a dragon lived in the gully beneath it, guarding a giant pearl. The gully's over a mile deep, so deep it can't be mapped from the air. It's one of the few genuinely uncharted places in the world.
From the very start, we are dealing with lives of men.
It seems just like a bad dream. It seems so unreal.
I was thinking, well, are they going to find us? Or am I going to see my companions die?
The Army puts a lot of importance on this kind of training, but the next step on is a full-scale expedition abroad. The official line is that expeditions are expected to be challenging and adventurous. They're designed to be physically and mentally demanding and put the team under the kind of pressure that they can't experience here. That's certainly true of a 10-man expedition to the Malaysian jungle almost exactly a year ago, which very nearly ended in tragedy. What followed was one of the most remarkable survival stories in recent history and a major international rescue involving the British and Malaysian governments. Their plight was headline news around the world, and it also became the subject of an Army Board of Inquiry, which in turn led the Army to reviewing the levels of expertise required to run such expeditions in the future. 999 has been back to Mount Kinabalu to show properly the kind of jungle conditions the men faced during their ordeal and to reconstruct some of the key events. While we've used actors in the reconstruction, we'll be showing a lot of the video shot on the expedition by Major Ron Foster with this camcorder and quoting from diaries kept by the Major and by the expedition's leader, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Neal. What follows is the true story of how 5 men came very, very close to losing their lives in one of the most dangerous and inhospitable regions on Earth, there at the point of no return.
The aim of the expedition was to make a descent of the north face of Kinabalu by means of Lowe's Gully.
Hi.
My deputy was Major Ron Foster, who had been to the mountain specifically to attempt Lowe's Gully on 2 expeditions.
It's very beautiful, Ron.
I wrote to the commanding officer of my old unit in Hong Kong, offering him up to 3 places for Hong Kong soldiers who would like to join our expedition to Kinabalu.
First of all, we've got Victor, then Kevin, then Chow.
I would obviously need to take a competent rock climber, and I was soon able to find him in the form of Lance Corporal Richard Mayfield, who was delighted to be offered a place on the expedition.
Yeah, it's cool.
9,652 feet, and I'm still doing one-arm pull-ups.
Very good, very good.
My concept for the expedition was basically for the younger and fitter element to recce on ahead, to lay the ropes out for us. Major Foster, myself, with the 3 Hong Kong soldiers, would follow on behind, and that way we would meet up frequently and everybody would have a satisfactory expedition.
That decision to split the party was to prove controversial. The plan was for the 2 groups to abseil down over 6,000 feet into Lowe's Gully, following the river Penataran out through the jungle. The expedition would take 6 days, but they had enough rations for 10. The 5-man recce party was to go on ahead, lay ropes, find water, and make a camp for the night. But at the end of the day, Lance Corporal Mayfield was to climb back up to the 2nd group and guide them down to the others. The trouble was, he never made it.
I'm glad to see the lads in good spirits, but where the hell is Mayfield? Can't imagine. We've got a great vantage point here, and there's no one inside.
I was relying on Mayfield to show us to some water and a good place for the night.
We've got enough water for today.
Yes, but we'll need some more tonight.
I was relying on Mayfield to guide us down to our campsite, so I was concerned at the fact he wasn't there. I then had to find my own campsite and water, all of which took time up.
When I looked down, I couldn't see the bottom. It was very deep. I can see it was terrible. At that time, I felt a bit frightened.
Over here! Good water.
It's 15:30. I think we'll camp here tonight. Maybe we'll meet up with the others in the morning and regroup. Can you clear a bivvy site? Get a brew on. Ron and I'll head on down and see if we can see any sight of the others.
There was still no sign of the recce party, but they'd left a note in an old ration box so it could be easily spotted.
What does it say? Hi lads, you're on course. Follow the cairns.
What kind of message is that?
The day we were supposed to RV at 2 o'clock and come across this patch of jungle which was particularly nasty. We missed the RV, but I wasn't concerned because we thought, well, the catch is up this afternoon.
They made a place for the night.
Let's head back.
If Lance Corporal Mayfield hadn't made the RV, the least he should have done was send somebody to our bivvy site.
The recce party had left cairns or markers for the others to follow them down, but it was now too late to continue, and besides, the colonel was beginning to look ill.
Mushroom soup.
Ah, my favourite.
Morning, 25th of February. Looking back up the Easy Valley. We're just about to go and pick up the remainder of our kit and bring it back down, and hopefully meet up with the other members of the group later on.
Despite the colonel's worsening condition, they continued down the deceptively named Easy Valley to the next agreed rendezvous point. But again, the recce party weren't there.
Oh, this is stupid. Oh, where are the others?
I've got to rest.
I realised that Colonel Neil was quite ill by that point. All he wanted to do was lay down. He wasn't unconscious, but he wanted to sleep. There was nothing else I could do, but I thought the recce group's gone on ahead. They don't know he's like this. How am I going to let them know? The following morning, I decided to go forward myself and see if I could see something.
I'm off to see if I can find the others. I'll be back at 0900. Okay?
Okay.
In fact, Mayfield was on his way back to meet the second party, but he and the Major missed each other.
When I awoke on that morning, I was terrifically relieved because for a start I could talk again, I could think quite clearly, and I was just totally focused on carrying on with the expedition. Because that morning Corporal Mayfield came up and we discussed the way ahead, and everything was on track again. Although I was, of course, aware that I had lost 24 hours by virtue of this sickness.
Colonel Neil specifically said to me, wait at the bottom of the gully. And I said, yes, until tomorrow morning. And then he said it again, wait at the bottom of the gorge. And I said, yes, until tomorrow morning.
Ron! Good news! Mayfield's been. We should all be together again by this evening. There are 5 more abseils to the bottom of the gully.
Great! You feeling better?
We're on course.
At this stage, it still seemed likely that the two groups would meet up. But then, the colonel's team hit another problem.
Unfortunately, on the second abseil, the rope stuck when I was trying to pull it down. I was then faced with climbing up 50 metres of rope to free it.
Because of the problems associated with getting the double rope down, we had to actually spend the night on a fairly narrow ledge, and we were able to make ourselves fairly comfortable. It's the morning of the 28th of February. The double rope we couldn't pull down last night. So Robert is going back up to sort of release it, free it.
It was sod's law throughout. There were so many factors which contributed to the breakup of the expedition.
They freed the knot in the abseil rope, but this further delay meant that the Colonel's party was falling further behind schedule. They made their way down the 5 abseils to what they thought was the bottom of the gully. But instead of finding the recce party waiting for them, all they found was another note.
More abseils, more later.
So what they thought was the bottom of the gully isn't the bottom at all. There's at least 6 more abseils. We can't start tonight.
We'll camp here. Start again in the morning.
Fine.
This was the point of no return. If they continued down into the gully, it would be impossible to climb back out. But would the recce party still be waiting?
We stayed up quite late discussing what we should do if they didn't show up, and it was a unanimous decision that we would have to push on. At that stage, once we were at the bottom, there was no way I could have climbed back up. I mean, we're talking kind of like 1,500 feet of near vertical and vertical vegetated loose rock.
This is quite a dramatic waterfall that we've just abseiled down. I was first man, thank God.
Despite the inexperience of the Hong Kong soldiers, and despite being without their rock climbing expert, the Colonel had no choice but to push on to the bottom of the gully.
Good lad, Victor, well done. Excellent. You made it to the bottom of the gully. There you are. No one won't say. Good boy.
When I reached the bottom of the gully, I was very happy because I'd never done anything like this before. I felt very proud.
The Colonel's group were all down safely, but way behind schedule. The recce party had gone for good.
We'd already wasted 4.5 days waiting for the rear group to catch us up. To wait any longer was suicide.
I got to the floor of the gully, and I think I had at that stage 5 days' rations left, certainly 4 or 5 days' rations. But of course, I'd lost the recce party.
We're very much in jungle country now.
Hello.
We're on our way through, finding yet another route. We had to overcome these boulders.
During that first day in the gully, it started to rain in the afternoon, and then we found out how dangerous the boulders are when they're wet.
It rained solidly all night, and by the next morning, the gully was a complete maelstrom of foaming water.
Torrential rain and impassable waterfalls meant that for the next 4 days the group were virtually at a standstill. The gully was becoming a gigantic drain for the mountain. Getting out was like a spider trying to get out of a bath.
Diary. It was time to consider the unthinkable, that we might not be able to escape from the gully.
Before he went, I had a strange feeling that this was far bigger than I'd ever anticipated.
This was not active service in the face of the enemy. It was an adventurous training expedition, which I was now willing to concede to myself, if not to Ron, was going horribly wrong.
I was a little bit apprehensive. I'd actually seen Mount Kinabalu, and after seeing it and realising what it really looked like, I was a bit more nervous this time.
This is bloody useless.
It's just coming away in my hands. Let's get back before it gets dark.
Okay.
Send Kevin down a rope to the river to see if he can find some shelter.
I found a little cave. I believed it would shelter us that night. I went back and told the Colonel that I found a cave and you can all come down and stay the night out of the rain.
We spent the night in this cave because of late afternoon rain. We'll probably call this cave Kevin's cave, because Kevin is the one who found it.
I got everybody together that evening and I said, things are beginning to look serious. So time to look at our rations.
Okay, Ron, what have you got?
5 biscuits. 5 hot drinks. Packet of dextrosol.
Kevin?
2 packets of biscuits. 4 hot drinks.
Okay, we've got 2 days' rations. We're going to have to make it last for 6 days. So we'll have half a biscuit each and some chicken soup. Please, Ron.
It was a dawning realization that we were now really in serious difficulty, because it was now day 10 of the expedition, and that was the day I should have been reporting back to park headquarters. You have this awful sinking feeling that through your own actions you've got yourself into this situation, all through, I suppose, my own overconfidence. I'd obviously been overambitious.
I went out onto the river and I started picking up large stones and throwing them onto a flattish kind of rock, and I started making an SOS. As I was completing the first S, Robert realised what I was doing, and I think it struck him, straight away.
And that's when it came home to me that the situation that we were in, because he was putting out an SOS sign.
Diary, day 15. 5 days overdue. My dearest Fiona, things are as serious as you can imagine. The size of the gully is too deep. We must sit here and await our fate. I hope the other group have made it down and raised the alarm at Park HQ, despite my instructions to wait.
It was only when I realized that nobody had come looking for us that we determined that we would have to sacrifice energy and some of our food to have a serious escape bid.
Well, here we are on the morning of March the 11th, the day when Robert and I are going to try and escape. We will attempt to bypass those rocks up there and then come out onto the top of the ridge. We've made out SOS in stones. We did that last Sunday. So for 5 days we've actually waited for help and nothing has appeared. And I attempted to recce in the greenery just to the left. Robert is going up similar greenery as that shown on the right.
Came across track of other group on Knife Ridge about 500 feet above the gully. Mist came down, and as there were several valleys, got disorientated, fell, and was properly lost for a horrible hour. It was frightening. Completely lost. After half an hour I finally found my trail, but now it was getting dark. I climbed for 7.5 hours, hopeless, then I fell badly.
And I was alone, and I felt very low indeed, and was on the verge of panicking, because here I was stuck about 400 or 500 foot up the side of the gully. The mist was down, didn't know how to get back, certainly couldn't go on. It took me 20 minutes, I think, to calm down and get rational again, and not to panic, and just to sort myself out.
Robert!
The Major had also failed to find a route out.
I still believe, though, we could reach the ridge, but it's much higher than I hoped.
We'd kill ourselves if we take it on. The best thing to do is to sit tight and to wait.
It's impossible. The truth is, none of us are strong enough.
We wait for rescue.
I started to think a great deal more about Jeanette and the family at home. I even started writing a letter to Jeanette that I loved her and the family, and I would hope that she wouldn't receive that letter ever.
Every time the telephone rang, I thought, this is it, this is it. This is Ron to say, go get a flight and I'll meet you. And as the days went on, I really didn't know what to expect.
We said we must just sit this thing out, have faith in the system, and stay where we are, conserve energy, and put the emphasis on survival. And after about another week or so, no sign of any rescue attempt, you have to take things into your own hands again.
We've planned our route, we've left the route and directions in case the helicopter comes and rescues on convoys in the meantime. But our aim is to get to civilization and try and jack something up as soon as possible.
Don't worry. We'll be back within 3 days. Now, the important thing to do is to conserve energy, so stay where you are. On no account are you to move about.
I hope you are successful. The colonel and the major went off to find a way out. I felt they shouldn't leave us behind because we were in a group of 5. We should all stay together.
We've been 2 days trying to get on escape route. We were at about 800 vertical feet above Kevin's cave. We were stopped by a vertical bank of soil and mud, which we were completely unable to get up. There was nothing to hold on to. And if we'd fallen, there was nothing to stop us sliding 300 to 400 feet. It was getting late, and we retraced to a safe bivvy area we'd found earlier.
We were optimistic, otherwise we wouldn't have gone. We just had to go for it because we couldn't stay there and just rot if nothing was happening outside. I'm sure we all prayed to our various gods at one time or another. It was more the belief that 10 soldiers can't go missing without something happening.
Day 20. 10 days overdue. Lucky day?
Hey, Robert. Listen. Helicopter! Over there to the north! I'll flash me camera. He might see us if he comes this way. Hey! 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 It's not coming this way. They must be looking for us now. Perhaps the recce party have got through. And they sent out a search party. It's flying too high, Rob. It's not even inside the gully. It's probably nothing to do with us. They'll never see us.
My dearest Fiona, I do hope you create a fuss. Was that helicopter anything to do with us? Surely someone somewhere will twig that we are overdue. Sorry to have caused you so much worry and hassle. At least now you can throw out all the junk in the loft. Before things get too sticky, I'll make a will. It will make me feel better for you.
But that helicopter was looking for them. 3 days earlier, the recce party had finally staggered out of the jungle and raised the alarm.
On the day we split, it took us 7 days to get out. We thought they were dead. We thought, well, if they're not out, if there's no way they were fit enough, strong enough, or had the expertise in the group to do what we just did. I mean, we all had large cuts and bruises. We'd all been bitten from everything from leeches to mosquitoes and a few things that probably aren't in any books. We were all on our last legs. It was all very close to us, falling asleep and not waking up again.
Back in Britain, a rescue team of experienced climbers, jungle survival instructors and an army doctor was assembling at Heathrow. There to advise them on Mount Kinabalu was Mike Ellersmore, who knew the area well.
Having thought about it for a long time, it seemed to me that all the expertise were now in the first 5. and the second 5 were, for the want of a better word, less able. So if the first 5 were struggling to get out, then the second 5 were certainly going to struggle.
But even before the British team were airborne, the Malaysian army had already begun to search the area on foot.
Immediately we plotted the organization on the very same day. Time is a factor, bearing in mind that they were lost, and we knew for sure they'd be run out of food. Therefore, we have plans for the deployment of troops, the military, the Air Force, the Royal Malaysian Police, the Border Scouts. We more or less went on air reconnaissance on daily basis to communicate to them that we are searching for you. Please show yourself. We will find you someday. So the sound of the aircraft is strong enough to communicate to them that they knew that we are all searching for them.
So far, none of the relatives back in Britain had any idea of what had happened.
What are you doing here?
Sophie, I was just passing by and I thought I'd drop Robert's bags off.
Oh, he's back then.
No, he's not. These were the bags that he left at Colchester before he went. Can I drop them in the hall?
Oh, yes, of course.
So just from here. Can I have a cup of coffee, do you think?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry if I look a bit of a mess. I'm just
Okay, sorry. Right, unannounced.
Cup of coffee?
I'd love one, please. Yes, it'd be
You
lovely.
have sugar, don't you?
I do, yes, just one, please. I've got some news of the expedition.
Is he dead?
No, he's not. It's nothing like that, but do you want to have a seat? We've heard that 5 of the group have come out.
Yes.
But Robert, Ron and the 3 Chinese are still in there.
But that'll be all right, won't it? Because Robert would naturally want to stay with the less experienced ones.
It is a bit more serious than that. The first 5, when they came out, were half-starved and in pretty bad shape.
It was this dreadful feeling of shock. It was like an electric shock from your feet to the top of your head and down through your body again.
I think we should look on it as no news is good news. You know, he knows what he's doing.
This is the state our clothing has got to after about 20 days on the expedition. What really finished it off has been the past 4 or 5 days scrabbling around the slopes of this wretched gully without being able to get it dry. It's gradually rotting on us. And you can start to see the effect of boots rotting, which in anybody's language has to be the beginning of the end.
We heard this sort of thrashing around in the undergrowth, and I looked all sort of excited towards the side of the gully, and all of a sudden there were 3 very familiar Gore-Tex jackets approaching.
We thought we could follow you to safety. We feel stronger now. Didn't want to sit and die.
But Kevin, you have no food. Where would you find the energy? Why did you decide to leave the shelter and the SOS sign? There's no logic in that at all.
We waited for 3 days. We saw the rain.
Look, they say that if you're in an emergency, stay where you are, you will be found. Okay, let's head back to the shelter and wait to be rescued.
When I saw the colonel and the major again, I felt disappointed because they should have found a way out. But we were happy we were together again.
We'd left full of optimism that we would succeed, and obviously they had doubted our ability to do it. As it was, they were quite right, because we'd failed on many occasions before.
A huge search operation is underway in Borneo for 5 members of a British Army team who've gone missing on a climbing expedition. The men were part of a 10-man expedition which set out to climb Mount Kinabalu in northern Borneo. Half returned safely, but the other group of 5 have been missing for more than a week in a dense jungle region.
In Hong Kong today, at the British Army headquarters coordinating the search for them, one expert said that with the right tactics, survival for the missing men was perfectly possible.
If they decide to sit tight and stay by water, they can last for many, many days, in fact weeks, even after the rations have depleted.
The Malaysian Army Brigade are currently in the northwest of Mount Kinabalu, and they are coming upriver towards the lip of the gully in a pincer-like movement towards the RAF search and rescue teams who were coming in from the south.
The RAF rescue team had to go from the top and move down the gully as far as they could go. And hopefully they would have been found near the top of the gully, or indeed at the point of no return. But this is a protracted effort. You're going 11,000 feet climbing, then you've got to start descending another 8,000 feet. It takes time. People just don't really realise the perspective. It is massive. It is Ben Nevis 2.5 times inside this gully.
At about 7:15 this morning, I saw a white cloud which I took to be spray, but in fact it was a landslide.
It was bad enough starving to death and nobody coming to rescue us, but I thought that we'd done the wise thing in staying in the bed of the gully, and yet here the mountain was suddenly doing its thing again, and now hurling rocks at us.
There are two which fell on our sight. That's the point where Chow was sleeping. There's his sleeping mat, and several rocks fell, and I believe that one of them carried him right down into the area where I should have been sleeping. It was a miracle no one was killed.
I think Victor encapsulated it all when he said, well, if we've survived this when we were clearly meant to die, someone's on our side and we're going to be okay.
Helicopter! Look! Flex the camera, Kevin! Go and get the camera! Come here! There, look! Come on! Helicopter! Oi! Helicopter! Hand off! Hey! Hand off! They will come. They must be looking for us now. They must be.
It's very hard for us to understand at this point why it has taken the authorities so long to institute rescue operations. And we would have thought, because the exercise is staged in Lowe's Gully, that this would be the first place that people would have looked. The daily ration at the moment is about 2 or 3 cough lozenges plus 1 dextrosol a day and 2 hot drinks.
It's a popular misconception that the jungle is full of bananas and pineapples. There's very little to eat that is readily at hand. In their particular location, I don't believe there was anything that they could have gained significant nutrition from.
Chow not very well. They all look thin. I suppose I do too.
You'll be okay.
It's only when you face a situation where your life can end that you realise the value of it. And then you watch the gradual deterioration of your comrades and you think, perhaps their lives will ebb away before mine does. And then what will happen if I am the last person there? How will that affect me?
Diary. Ron has resolved to have another attempt. I'm too weak. Well done, Ron, for having the strength to go for it. I'm not confident he will succeed.
Right then, I'll be off.
Bye, Ron. Don't go and do notes on me.
Don't worry, I'll be back. Bye.
It was a very desolate moment. I had doubts that he would make it out.
This is the view that I got this morning.
I volunteered to do this because we'd finished the last of the solid food and I was the fittest of the lot. Robert and the 3 Chinese boys are suffering the effects now. I'm living on my body fat. My feeling was, I've got to do it. So I went up inclines which, in normal circumstances, I wouldn't normally have gone up. and started thinking, well, I haven't died yet, and within 10 minutes a helicopter went overhead. And I thought, this is it. I thought we're going to be rescued. I tried to attract its attention with the camera, but to no avail.
Conducted several searches of the lower section of Lowe's Gully, and it was during that search that the Malaysian pilot saw the flash from Ron Foster's camera.
I saw a gleam of something shining on ground, and the other crew member was telling me there's some signal from the ground. So I'm going to position again the aircraft to have a good look.
21st of March. Past time writing notes and will. Victor and Kevin witnessed it. One of the things about this overhang is the constant noise of running water and the drone of the waterfalls, which sounds just like helicopter rotors.
It didn't come anywhere near us. It stayed way over the jungle. So we returned to our sleeping bags and delighted a few hours later to hear a commotion outside, bursting through the undergrowth, and there was Ron.
And he said, "I'm glad you're back, Ron. I don't like playing chess on my own."
I was just glad that he'd come back and was safe.
Unfortunately, the place that they were likely to be was the most difficult place to fly. It was the narrowest part of the gully. The helicopter wouldn't hover. In the hover, it was just sinking, so it had to be moving forward. And therefore, the task for the helicopter pilots was difficult, to say the least.
The 24th of March now, and Robert's looking skyward, hopefully to see another glimpse of the helicopter. Kevin's looking quite expectant. And Victor too. Hi, Victor.
25th of March. 20 days overdue. Well, I think my suspicions that yesterday's helicopter activity was unconnected with this were correct. No sign of them today. So as there was no search pattern, I'm assuming they haven't started. Why? It will all last for another week, but it won't be pleasant.
Suddenly there was a most terrific clattering noise. I knew we'd been found. In fact, it was so loud that I thought the helicopter was going to crash onto the rock.
And you could feel the hair standing out from the back of your neck, and this wonderful sensation going on in your body, and you think, yes, that's it, we're going to be rescued now. And then it got closer and closer, and I thought, is it ever going to stop?
We went down at a low level, and during that pass, the second pass, suddenly we realized that that is the survival location, because why we found that there's a signal on ground made of rock stating SOS. Hovering over the area where it's confined, we need courage to do that.
It felt as though one of the big boulders in the gully had been lifted from my shoulders, and it got within a few feet, and a yellow bag appeared on a thin nylon cord.
The excitement was terrific, so we rushed out because we knew in the bags would be messages and certainly food.
At that moment I was very happy because I did not know how to describe it. Very happy because we were rescued. Very happy. Beyond words.
There was nowhere for the helicopter to land, so 2 Malaysian paramedics and a British Marine were winched down to the survivors. It was their first contact with the outside world in 30 days.
I'm really pleased to see you, mate.
Very, very, very pleased to see you.
The medic had told us about how the alarm had been raised and all the horrors that the recce group had been through, and indeed how long they'd been looking for us, and that was what really staggered me, the fact that people had been looking for us for over a fortnight.
There we are, all waiting in the middle of the river. That's Kevin waving, Robert now in the red jacket, and that's Chow. I thought he was thin before he started on this trek.
This is Ron. He's getting ready to be rescued. He's a lucky man. And me too, I'm Victor. We have been here for over 20 days. We will never forget these days.
A bigger Sikorsky helicopter would be needed to winch the men to safety. The flying conditions were still terrible.
I think it is very dangerous. I have to move forward and very tight turn to position myself.
Here he is. Just hovering now, just looking. And it's coming towards us.
And it got nearer and nearer, and I thought, is it coming right down to us? And I was watching the blades, and at the same time my eye was glued to the eyepiece, and you could see all the debris whirring around and the rotors getting louder, and obviously there's a tremendous downdraft, and I had to wedge myself in between two boulders and hold my elbows down to get the camera steady.
I was hovering at 80 feet above the survivors. I think it is very dangerous. I really had to maintain a steady position because I have no room for errors.
They couldn't all be airlifted at once, so the paramedics had to decide who needed medical help most.
I told Ron I would be last out, obviously to make sure the gully was clear from my expedition's point of view, but the medic pointed at me and the crew members grabbed me, and that was it.
The colonel had lost several stones in weight. He wouldn't have lasted much longer.
Down went the stretcher again, and in due course up came Victor.
The British Army team, missing in the dense and dangerous terrain of North Borneo, has been found alive. The worst affected by the ordeal, a British officer and a Hong Kong soldier, were winched out by helicopter and are recovering well.
They were found weak but alive, 6,000 feet high on the inhospitable slopes at the foot of a waterfall known as the Point of No Return.
I slipped down the last 3 steps of the staircase with my haste to get to the phone, and I heard, "They've been found." It's just like instead of darkness there's light.
Thank you.
I can remember standing by the settee and feeling as if I'd grown twice the size in height. I can't explain. I just felt as if my head was touching the ceiling.
The others, a second officer and 2 other soldiers, are spending one more night in the open, but with medical help and fresh supplies.
The Sea King's now arrived, and very shortly he'll be winching up, first of all, Chow, then myself, and last Kevin.
This was the last view of Lowe's Gully that Ron Foster shot on his camcorder as he was being flown to hospital.
The 5 soldiers rescued from the Borneo jungle have been reunited with their families in Hong Kong. In the 3 weeks they were missing, they'd lost 1/5 of their body weight.
I was rather afraid of seeing him because I'd been told that they were very, very thin. It had been arranged that we would all meet in public for the first time. And that unnerved me. But all that was put aside at the fact that anything to see them again. He looked so much older, it's as though he'd sort of aged overnight. And his bones stuck out and he walked very slowly. His hug was very strong.
We just fell into each other's arms and, said hi, and it was marvellous.
I was excited, but I felt nervous. And luckily, when they all arrived, there were all the press people and everything, but I stood back from everybody else, and Ron, when he came through, saw me straight away, so we had our meeting in private, only for a few minutes, probably seconds, I can't really remember.
I thought she might tell me off, being over-ambitious, I suppose, but at the same time I thought, well, I don't mind what she says, at least we'll be together.
I told Ron that I loved him and that I'd missed him, and that if he ever did that to me again, he'd really be in big trouble.
When we were in the gully, waiting to be rescued, I prayed to my God, passing a message through my heart to my family to tell them, don't worry, I'll come back soon.
I'm the expedition leader. I'm totally responsible for all that went on and for the safety of my soldiers. What goes on from here on is up to other people.
No heroes welcome back in Britain. 6 months later, an Army Board of Inquiry criticised the way the expedition had been run.
The board considered that Lieutenant Colonel Neil's judgment and leadership during parts of the expedition were flawed, and that the decision to take the less experienced members of the group into Low's Gully was over-ambitious.
No disciplinary action will be taken against Colonel Neil, who declined to speak at his home today. But he released a statement saying he accepted full responsibility for anything that had gone wrong.
I'm afraid I have no further comment. One of the things you learn when you have an experience like this is that life really is too short to worry about passing transitory thing. I mean, nothing is more important than life and other people's lives. This really brings it home. So I think after an experience like this, you do tend to have a different perception of life afterwards. And I hope it stays with me. It doesn't wear off after a few years.
I think the experience of Colonel Neil and myself brought us very close together. From being very much a leader and a second in command, we became equals in the gully.
The most important thing is that for any expedition, if you do in a group, you bring the esprit de corps, the love of your comradeship.